I'm good. Is it out? I'm glad you told me.
That's all.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is our January regular school board meeting. So thank you for those who are here in person. This will be live. We appreciate it. At this time, I'll call for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge.
Dear Father, we just come before you this time. We're thankful for this day. We're thankful for this opportunity that you allowed us to come together to do what you called us to do. Oh, we pray now that you grant us wisdom, that you grant us discernment, Lord, all that we say and all that we do.
Petition, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Cherokee County's Board of Education mission is for every student to graduate from high school and to be locally competitive in work, post-secondary, and prepared for life in the 21st century.
You have the agenda before you. Are there any additions, corrections that need to be made to the agenda?
I gotta ask a question, if it's possible to add to number 9A and number 2, to discuss the resolution I brought up at the work session.
Okay, I'll need a motion and a second for that.
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Payton. Okay, seconded by Mr. Coleman. All right, Mr. Payton, discussion?
No, Madam Chair.
Mr. Coleman, discussion? All right, other board member discussion?
Was that for discussion on that resolution?
Yes.
Okay, all right, just sign up. Okay. All right, all in favor of modifying the agenda, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed on same sign? Okay. All right, Danny, 9 under A, number 2, will be a resolution that Mr. Coleman would wish to discuss. Okay, great. All right, you also have before you the regular meeting minutes from December 12th. Are there any objections, corrections that need to be made to those minutes? Okay. Hearing none, those minutes stand. All right. Next item on the agenda, public comment. Mr. Chapman, okay, no public comment. All right, next item on the agenda, reports, Dr. Woody, I'll give the floor to you.
Thank you. On facilities report, we'll begin by just letting you know that we met on January 6th with REI engineers. And completion date, or projected completion date for Andrews Middle School roof is approximately January 21st. At our meeting, they were 90% complete on that project. And they may have a few weather days that could go just a little bit past that, but it should be before the end of January if all goes well. Also in your package, you have, we got the school resource officers grant for $352,000. That provides for 8 resource officers from DPI Center for Safer Schools. You also tonight, as you're approving, will also be approving an updated MOU that's required for this grant for us to have. The wall project at Hiawassee Dam is moving forward at this time. The weather has held that up just a little bit. When the weather gets a little bit better, we'll go ahead and set the chiller. Johnson's Controls will be setting the chiller at Hiawassee Dam as the weather improves there. We also are requesting from half-cent sales tax a total of $80,050, $75,000 for Andrews High and Murphy Elementary High, and then $5,050 for putting a fence around the boiler once it's at Murphy High School. Also, wanted to tell you, and this is just informational for you, the upset bid that you approved for 85 Temple Street property last week, or you approved the bid. There were no upset bids on that, so we did accept, since the board approved it, that property for $25,000, and that property is now being transferred over into the name of the individual with the bid. We have you have your personnel report also in your packet. And then I do have a couple of recognitions tonight. Before I do those, in your packet, there is several reports that you'll see as you flip through for different meetings, different reports, different follow-ups on the Andrews Middle School roof. So you should see multiple reports in there that should help you along on what the progress was as it was there. You have the letter in your packet for the resource officers grant. You have the MOU also in your packet. And as I said, we have 2 recognitions tonight that we're glad. Our first one is for Holly Stonecipher, and Holly is she got a National Board Teacher Certification. Ms. Raper Pugh and Mr. Matthews want to go to the end down there. I will read off of some information about her, and then we will have her to come up and receive her award there. Mrs. Stonecipher has been employed with Cherokee County Schools for 10 years. She began her career as a kindergarten teacher and transitioned to first grade the following year. She has a bachelor's degree in elementary education from Mars Hill College and a master's degree in elementary childhood education from Piedmont University. Her classroom philosophy is centered around student learning. It is an environment where the most learning takes place. She fosters a community in her classroom that focuses on working together and allowing students to help each other. It is through this environment that she has gained the knowledge and experience to become a national board certified teacher and the educator she is today. And we want to say congratulations to Ms. And he'll just come through and look, take the other girl. Congratulations. Got one? And we have a second award to present tonight, and that is for Stephanie Mejia, who works in our finance department here. And I have just a couple of things to read about her. NASBO, which is the North Carolina Association of School Business Officials, School Business Management Academy certification provides position-specific professional development for the improvement of persons engaged in school business operations, management, and administration. The Academy offers courses for 5 classifications of school business management. Stephanie completed the director's classification. Her successful completion of the coursework means she completed 33 courses, including assessments. The courses include, but are not limited to, accounting, financial planning and budgeting, law and legal responsibilities, and business and personal management. So we want to say congratulations to Mrs. Mejia. And that will conclude my report.
Heard Dr. Woody's report as presented. Do I have a motion and a second to approve his report? Moved by Mr. Latham, and a second. Second, Mr. Coleman?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Mr. Latham, discussion. Mr. Coleman, discussion. Fellow board members, discussion. Mr. Chapman, roll call.
Mr. Ellis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Taylor?
Aye.
Mrs. Gaddis? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Coleman? Mrs. Redford?
Aye. All right, next item on the agenda will be our highest officer report, so I will introduce Ms. Hess.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just would like to congratulate Stephanie Mejia again. That course is very rigorous and it definitely helps build our knowledge in our finance department. So Stephanie, shout out to you again. Congratulations. In your packets this evening, you have 3 budget amendments for consideration. State Public School Fund, Federal Programs Fund, and Capital Projects Fund. Your State Public School Fund allocation, we've gotten several questions about 2 of these allocations. The first one, PRC 046, and the second one, PRC 048, from your budget adjustment summary sheet that's there. These are bonuses, but they are from the state. They are very specific bonuses, individualized bonuses. They are not widespread for every teacher. They are specifically a 3rd grade read to achieve bonus, an AP bonus, CTE bonus, and it has to do with courses that those individuals taught and test scores that they produce from teaching those. So when we are having some of the educators I know that have reached out to you asking about full teacher bonuses, that's not what this is. These are just state-driven, individualized, based off of classroom performance. So those allocations have fallen. We have CTE credentials that's specific to our CTE program for those licensed credentials. We did have the state reallocate for the feminine hygiene products grant. We use that at several of our schools, so that way it provides in the nurse's office. And then Children with Disabilities, a special state reserve, is funding that does allow for us to fill some of those one-on-one TA positions. In your federal programs fund, all of your PRCs that are listed here, these budgets have to do with initial allotments or finally getting those allotment adjustments from, approved through DPI as their systems are now starting to release them to us. We have to go through a little bit different of a process to get those budgets back, but these are nothing that you have not received before. And then the capital projects budget, it aligns with what, Dr. Woody presented to you in the capital projects that, he requested you to approve earlier. This is just a budget that aligns with that. And so administration would ask for these budget amendments to be approved as presented.
Okay, you have heard this as a House report. Do I have a motion in the second to approve her report?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Mr. Ellis, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. For Mr. Okay. All right, Mr. Matthews, all right, Mr. Ellis, any discussion?
No.
Mr. Matthews, any discussion? Fellow board members, discussion?
Just a couple of questions, Madam Chair. What is, on PRC 048, what is AICE?
We do not have that. That would be specific to, I believe, is it the international courses that were taken at the state level? We do not have any that qualify for that.
Okay. Thank you. And then, the other question I have is what is our balance on our 4042?
I requested that information and Ms. Anderson did not get that back to me just yet, but I can give you the most recent balance. I don't know if there's any changes. It was approximately $2.4 million. On the half, did you say quarter or half?
Oh, I'm sorry. I said the 4042, so the half.
Oh, that is the half cent. Wait a second, I'll pull that up from the most recent balances that I have. We're approximately 5.7 million, Mr. Baker.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Now, that does raise a follow-up question though for the 40, I'm trying to learn the article numbers, but I always say quarter half cent. So for the quarter cent, is that 2.4? So correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is when the commissioners undesignated that, they did promise us what we had in there at that point, which is 2.3. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. So I worked with the county finance officer. That is the balance through June 30th. So not just the balance, but any revenues that return refunds that we receive those usually a quarter later, so 3 months or better later. They are also giving us that balance back into that account. So as of June 30, any money that was generated or any refunds that would be forthcoming, that is the available balance that is available to the Board of Education for you to request.
And that is 2.4 million?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. And so just so I'm sure that I'm correct on this, the last time we did a local budget, we used just under $1 million to balance the budget. out of that.
yes, sir, that's correct. $918,000.
So we would project that it would be at least that to do this next budget, correct?
Unless that there is identified expenditure reductions in our budget, yes, sir, I would imagine that amount would be the minimum amount that we would need to request. I mean, as we would hope that the state budget would provide for salary and benefit increases, that number could increase, but minimally to continue operations for status quo, yes, sir.
So that gives us about 2 or 3 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Any further discussion? Mr. Chapman, roll call vote, please.
Mr. Matthews, how do you vote? Aye. Mr. Capen?
Aye.
Mrs. Gaddis?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy? Mr. Coleman?
Aye.
Mr. Ellis?
Aye.
Mrs. Ricker?
Aye. Next item on the agenda. Don't really have anything for a board report. Just being back a few days, have some more next month. I'm glad everybody's back, but we started this spring semester. I know it's January, but graduation will be here before we know it. So, good luck to all of our students and our teachers. Looking forward to what this semester brings. All right. Next item on the agenda, old business. A, long-range facilities plans. Number one, discussion of the property adjacent to the Go ahead.
Could I report it?
Sure,
Speak, please.
absolutely. You'll look forward to Dr. Woody.
Okay, thank you. If you remember last month, I told you we, at this office, was working on a different format. And this is basically a sample. Again, I do want to say sample, it's not a draft, it's a sample of what the format could look like moving forward for you. Just a few things I did want to point out on it is, in a little bit different format that we didn't have in the other, we are looking at 5 priorities within this on facility needs. The long-range plan, I think, is not only a plan toward construction or building of something, but also improving what we have. So within that, and I won't go through all of it, but you can see, and it's self-explanatory what it would look like as we eventually move on. But 5 areas. And then in the very back, it's just the different proposals that over the last year or so that have been offered for the board consideration. And that's also in the back of it. And a question had come up, one other that I would just like to answer. The question was, if we got to a point where we did a grant, could we write a grant and say, and I'm just gonna use this as an example, could we say we got a grant for $50 million and it only took 40, or we wrote the grant that was for a new facility and say upgrading somewhere for windows? That is not allowed. That Nathan Mounty said that when you write a grant and receive this grant, it would be the construction of a new facility. So we couldn't take and split the grant out and move multiple schools or multiple areas as we wrote a needs-based grant. And so I know that's a question that has come up, and so we didn't get the answer for that. And just wanted the board to know that. And if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer about the form, or if this is something that might be easier for the board to follow as we move forward and look at it and develop a long-range plan.
I do like the layout of how we've shifted a little bit and how it's put in. It helps me a little bit better than what we had previously. So, I mean, I understand why the previous was in place. I understand that, but I think moving forward, I think this will be very helpful for us. Thoughts from the rest of the board?
I like the format. The only thing, and I don't think I meant to reach out to you or to Danny, I don't think I did, but in this, the only thing that I didn't see, and I know it's just a sample, but the enrollment for 2024, 2025.
Okay.
I did not see that in here, and that would help me.
All right.
We have 23, 24, and then projected ADM 25, 26, but we don't have the 24, 25.
I think we had that in there at one point. I actually took it out, but again, we can put it back in that. Put it back. We can do it that easy.
Other discussion?
Again, if you have suggestions or anything to make it easier for you, and again, that's what it is, to make it easier for you as we move through this process. If there's something like that suggestion there that makes it easier, then that's what we want. And again, this is just a sample of what it can look like.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right, that brings us to number 2. Well, actually brings us to number 1. So discussion of the property adjacent to Murphy High School. Mr. Tatham, I'm gonna turn that over to you, or Colin, do you care?
Okay. No, not all, Madam Chair, thank you. I had asked that this be added as a specific agenda item, because we've had that property a long time, since before I was on the board. We've discussed using it for a long time, and for the possibility of selling it in the right of way, and unfortunately, we never were really able to do anything with it. And as we start moving forward with discussions on potential new construction, grant application plans, those types of things. I thought it was important for us to kind of know all our options. I know a lot of people immediately dismiss that property and say, well, it's going to cost too much to grade it. And that very well may be true, but I would just like us to move forward and have somebody, and this might involve a little bit of half-cent money, I don't know, but have somebody that does this type of thing tell us what it's going to cost, what we could have there. If we build a school there, how big of a school, just to tell us whether we can use this property or not. Because I think as we talk about building, schools that are several $1 million, you can't just pick up and move them. So I want to make sure that we have, if we do ever get another grant, that we build a new school, that we've got all our options on the table. And if somebody tells us it's going to cost $20 million to grade it, then I'm going to say, then I think it's ridiculous to look at it any further. But I just think if we're going to move forward, we need to look at all our possible options, even if that means spending a little bit of money, and then we'll know what we've got and how best to move forward. So that's all that I was asking for. And I'm happy to try to phrase that into the form of a motion if we want, but just as long as we're moving in that direction to know what we have on that property.
Sure. All right, discussion?
We don't have an acreage there.
125.
It's
125.
yeah, it was less, it was 99 acres. And the board declared it surplus on February the 14th of 2019.
Okay.
So what does that mean for us?
So the board has completed the process if the board had an interest in selling it. You as a board, you have declared it surplus. I believe following the same timeline, the county would have received it. We sent several at that time and they had declined to purchase it. So if the board's decision as you were exploring your options is to sell, you completed your obligations to do so. You can sell it from there. But if you want to do as Mr. Catham has suggested and do that, I think you can still do it as it's declared surplus. You don't have to rescind that.
Okay.
So in other words, we can move forward. If we decide we want to put a school there, we can.
You would need to, before you put your school there, you would want to rescind
that.
it as surplus, correct?
Right, gotcha. But if we decide that's a really bad idea, and people say, I told you so, Jeff, then we're already ready to sell it. Because
Yes, sir.
we need to try to sell it.
Yes, sir. I will do a review of the county board, minutes to make sure that they actually put it in their minutes that they had, declined to purchase it from us, or do an exchange with us, but we have completed our deal process on that.
Okay.
Well, so then I would like to, and I can get help rephrasing this, but I would like to make some form of motion to say that I would like for us to hire some type of firm to give us an analysis and feasibility study of that property and new construction on that property.
But to employ an engineer
That's who
to
we
assess
did.
the development cost of the property in question.
That's who we did, yeah. I'll second.
One thing, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, should you put up to $1 amount on that, please?
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
For the,
for the services.
Can we use half cent for this? We
You may,
can.
yes, because it would ultimately be related to capital, but you do need to give a ceiling that the board is willing to go up for.
What was the cost of that for the school renovation when they did that?
I would have to pull that information out or call it off the top of my head.
I was just gonna ask what would be a good threshold.
Well,
You want to find something there?
I'd probably go at least 50
I was thinking
to
if-
75,000 if it was me.
I would agree.
So if we capped it at 75, but then we saw that it might be more than that, come back and make an amendment,
Absolutely.
would you be agreeable with that?
What, could we look, try to find something to compare it to, maybe another school district has done before and then revisit it next month?
We would definitely do that with vendors, so engineers, services and
Before you
such.
go to capital.
You could, if that was something you wanted to do, but what I think the motion is saying, move forward, not spend up to that amount, just you're not to spend over this amount. I mean, if it came in at $10,000, then you're just gonna return 65,000 back to your balance, it would not be used. You could release it from its encumbrance.
But what we would need to do before we still gotta make a motion that we move forward, to even do that, even if, and then the next step would be vendors, if we saw, okay, now this is where we're at.
The motion to move forward would be delayed until we had a dollar amount, because we couldn't engage with any company until we were allowed to know in what kind of funds that we had to work with.
Okay.
Well, no other school-
Contractually.
No, I mean, you can't look at any other school system because they don't have that same amount. I mean, that's all we're doing, is looking at that amount and asking, is anything possible there? So.
$50,000 is a lot.
No, I'm not against anything, it's not, but.
But if that's something that we could actually use, and it could be useful to us, trying to move forward with some plans, I do think it's worth pursuing.
There's not 100 acres in Cherokee County anywhere else.
So if there's 99 there, and then they tell us what we can actually get out of it and use, what's actually gonna be usable off of that.
If you sell it, would you need that information anyway? We decide to sell it, would that be useful to have?
Potentially, I mean, that would be up to the board whether or not you would want to release the 5-year report that y'all would use to make your report. I mean, it's public record, but you wouldn't have to necessarily say, hey, here is this, here's where you pick your road, here's all that stuff. So that would be up to the board.
But what was the consideration that the DOT said last time we talked to them about that intersection? I thought that they said they never came back and gave us.
The DOT did say that, and Mr. Chapman helped me on this, that they would allow us.
So we have the right of way, and we could, you have to have an actionable business plan for the mountain before you can start cutting the road in. That's the right word. I don't know if they use the business plan. We have to have plans for use of the mountaintop before we can cut a road in.
They would,
Is that the only, is that the only connection? Is that red light?
No, there's a right of way under the
yes,
bridge,
correct.
just past the red line. They gave us a right of way, and that was where we proposed it, at that intersection at Bulldog Drive. Do a cut-in lane there, there's a road that's going back and tying that down that frontage area. They said we have to have a plan for the development of the mountain before they'll let you start the road. So we got the right of way, but we gotta have a plan.
What I'm saying is, did the DOT say that our only right of way is into that intersection?
If you go out where the middle school is.
Yes,
it is,
because they
go
didn't
there,
want to
and
create
go
like
out.
a hamburger app, putting it somewhere else other than the red
Listen,
line.
I mean, it's right there, that's the front of the property.
That's what he's saying, could you move it like up or down somewhere? And I think that they were only specifically looking at putting it on
Yeah.
the red line because of the traffic.
But
Well, that's what, I mean, that's my question is, did they say that we can only use an entrance from that red line? Or did they say that we can come under the bridge?
No, the bridge has always been there, we can always do that. They said that that right of way has always been in existence, but still, we have to have an actionable plan for the mountaintop we can use it.
Is the DOT access that you're talking about off Bulldog Drive, is that even though, say, we sell it and someone has a plan, is that transferred? So like if we go to sell it, are we allowed to sell it?
I think it's already expired. So we had a 12-month window of opportunity, I think, and we had no plan, if I'm not mistaken.
But, I mean, if they issued it once, they would probably issue it again. I wish that it wasn't there, to be honest with you. I mean, imagine the traffic of 1,100 person high school coming out from one spot on the 4-lane. To me, that's not good. If it came under and you could come out from another way, under the bridge, I think that would be better, but if that's your only entrance and exit is that red line.
But the under would go out onto Andrews Road.
Well,
The under comes in.
The under comes out on Andrews Road, which is what you see.
I'm saying if you
as
had
Murphy.
two, no, I'm just saying if you could have both, then you can split that.
You have the
You
one
do.
under the bridge, you have here.
Yes,
That's not,
you would just have to, it's kind of, think of it like an old farm road right now. You would have to develop it to make it to where it can be usable. for what you're talking
That's what I'm
about.
asking.
The access off the 4 lane is what requires the actionable lane.
But if that's expired, we'll actually go through that whole process again and pay them another. $1,000 for that.
We did not make that cost. We did not pay them.
Oh, we did?
We did not. They wanted, the cost would only be due once that we had agreed on what its uses were. They did not agree to develop it until that was done. So that cost was not paid.
I mean, no matter what,
But this
that's
will-
100 acres that is ours. We have to purchase land, and if the consolidation comes back up, we have to know if it's useful or not because of the acreage. So,
I would recommend that we reach out to Mr. Russell with the NCDOT and ask him if he could come back. He was very agreeable to come and speak to the board at any time and have him represent our options to us, if that's okay with the board.
All right, so I have a motion and a second on the table.
Do we-
Discussion.
I'm sorry, did we set an amount, or what we said about the amount?
I didn't get the amount.
I thought 75.
I'm
Up to,
fine with whatever amount the board wants, just as long as we have a ceiling, so we know as we're negotiating that we're within our approval.
I'll do it auction style. I'll make the motion at 75, and if it gets voted down, then we'll re-bring it up to 50. I mean, don't
well,
we
the
have?
ceiling is
Yeah,
70.
but don't, I mean, did we do this with the school renovation? I mean, didn't somebody come in and look at that piece of property and do the exact same thing? So, I mean, how much did that cost?
We did, but I don't have that information on us, and it would have been lumped into the project as an entirety, so we could put that into our grant costs as well, so I'm not really sure what that was.
I mean, because also, if you grade that down to the level where the 4 lanes gonna cost you a lot more than if you just grade it down enough just for the hospital. I mean, so it depends on how far you go down with it, what that costs.
But what we're
Well, I
after
don't
is
think,
to
I
find out.
mean, it's in there. The piece that they would build the high school, it's not that mountain. It's on the other side of that mountain. So, I mean, you're snaking around into that, basically a hollow. So, I mean, it's not, you're not taking that mountain out, you're just building a road around into the hollow behind it.
They're in the hall.
But if this can help us to determine whether or not that's actually going to be a useful piece of property to us in the future, I mean, I do think it's worth exploring.
And for the record, I'd just like to say, I don't have any, like, necessarily have any set plans, like, this high school, or consolidated high school, or Cherokee high school. I just want to know if we can use it, and what we can use it.
Okay. So review, our motion, Gunny, is,
To employ an engineer firm, I guess an engineer, to assess the development cost of the property. And I wrote a question, adjacent, I'll list that property out to the property across the highway, from Murphy High School. With a cost not to exceed $75,000.
okay,
I might not put an engineer in, and just put firm.
Firm?
Be approved,
Correct.
other than an engineer, I might just put firm.
so if
My
we take out
suggestion.
engineer and just leave firm,
Firm.
is everybody agreeable to that? Okay,
I'm not even sure who gets to do that.
yeah, I don't think. All right, so the motion, again, I'm gonna come back to, so Mr. Tankton, discussion on this motion.
No, Madam Chair.
Mr. Ellis, discussion.
No.
Okay, fellow board members, discussion. Okay, all right, any further discussion? No? Then I guess we'll roll call vote this.
Mr. Tatum, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Gaddis? Mr. Murphy? Mr. Coleman? Say again?
Can I go out of
Mr. Ellis?
Aye.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mrs. Rayburn?
Aye. All right. Next item on the agenda, that comes to number 2, and a resolution, so I'm gonna yield the floor to Mr. Coleman.
Yes, so that added a little bit to my discussion on this. I probably will cheat in here with a little bit more. So just as that was brought up, I believe that property could be a big piece of property, a good piece of property. My hesitation on that vote was, because I think the cost would be a lot more than that. But, that gives an example of why I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say is, in our work session last month, I laid out a lot of stuff as far as the parameters in which we have to work in for the possibility of wherever we build next, the money that we have, there is no fictional money that's going to appear from anywhere other than a grant cycle and the possibility of our debt services money. I hope and pray that we'll find a sugar daddy somewhere that does give us money for that, but I don't see that coming. So that's kind of my expectation there. I talked a lot in our work session about the plan that I presented for 2 years with the K-8 in Peachtree. And the resolution, so again, I'm just reading this. This is not saying we haven't said nothing to it, but I'm going to read it again. Whereas the Board of Education recognizes the need for strategic facilities planning to ensure efficient use of resources and optimal education environments. And whereas current facilities require significant maintenance, repairs, and upgrades that strain district resources. And whereas a comprehensive plan has been presented to consolidate facilities through the construction of a new K-8 facility in Peachtree on the same property as Schools of Innovation. Strategic closure and sale of Murphy Elementary School, Peachtree Elementary, and Martin Creek School. Relocation of Murphy Middle School to new facilities. Conversion of the new Murphy Middle School that will be used as a high school at a later time. Whereas this plan would generate approximately $19 million in property sales while reducing operational costs through consolidation. And whereas the total project cost of $65 million provides modern education facilities while maximizing existing infrastructure and resources. Therefore, it be resolved that the Board of Education approves moving forward with the long-range facility plan as presented, authorizing necessary steps of implementation, including initial design development, financial planning and funding strategies, timeline development for phase implementation, community engagement and planning. And it goes on to where we would sign it if we voted it in. I think something that we're missing for a long time, all of us on this board, elected a while back or re-elected recently, have been given jobs to do and things that we have to accomplish. I will say this board has accomplished a large amount of things that have been proverbial kick to the can in the past, but this is still a huge one. And the understanding needs to be it's a 3-part plan. Our part is to come up with a plan. The second part of that is for the county commissioners to approve it or disapprove it. The third part of that is for DPI. There's no way whatever we send to the county commissioners the first go around is ever going to be approved. And I don't think any plan will be approved right off the bat. There'll be discussion back and forth. But our third is to start that process. And we have not done that for 2 years that I've been on this board. So yes, do I personally think this plan works? 110%. I've said it for 2 years. And it's something that we can do with the money that we have available and not fictitious money somewhere. So I don't think I can even make a motion. I don't know if I could, but if I could, I would make a motion to send the plan to the county commissioners because you are starting the process. We've been in stagnant water for 2 years with Nepal. And I have talked with many commissioners this week, and the answer I get is send me a plan. You want to move to the next step? Send me a plan. I believe our duty is to do that. And the reason I say this one, and this is not anything else, it's the only one that's from the beginning to the end. Like I can prove to you every point on that. And so, like I said, I don't know if I can make a motion, but if I can, I will. If I can't, then I'm just urging. I mean, the grant cycle, the application process is coming soon. And if we are not able to send in an application for a grant at that time, it's on us and only us. And I technically do not want to be part of that as far as not completing a part of the process. So whatever we do with that, I don't know. I don't know if I can make a motion to that or not.
Well, we're in discussion, so I don't know. Okay. So we can't have a motion on this then? No.
There's discussion now.
It's how it was listed, yes. If you're talking about closing schools and consolidation,
No, it's to start it's to send, just simply, I mean, you're gonna have to do that no matter what plan you send. You're gonna have to start the process with the county commissioners, period. Again, we're just still.
And it is just a resolution.
It is just a resolution to discuss, like, the county commissioners will not sit down and have an in-depth conversation with me at least. I know that for a fact. Will not have that conversation with me because they said I have never presented a plan to them. I've tried to have the discussions of just a talk about, but they won't do that. I've been told, submit a plan, we'll talk about it. So based on the advice, not advice, the comments I've been given by them, if we plan to move this forward in any form of a way, it is our job to make the first step. I mean, unless people think somehow they're gonna get this little piece of paper and be like, oh, yes, let's do this and that. You know, that ain't gonna happen. So, I mean, we can either start the process or for the next 2 years, we can hopes and dreams, but as was stated before, with that Article 46 money, that's 2.5 years till that money's gone. That is supplemental money to keep us with the 13 buildings that we have now. When that money's gone, you will consolidate, but it'll be something that you don't want to do.
But before we present a plan to the commissioners, we should all be in agreement on it.
That's what I'm asking to do.
So don't we typically do facilities and budgets, workshops, starting again in February, March, where we would move forward on that? Because I feel like tonight with the discussion with the land, to look at the use of that land across from Murphy High School, I think we are all thinking, yeah, we want to make a move on something. So if we are starting with that, I would say let's have a facilities workshop next month and lay the plans out and say, just pick one. How are we moving forward? Discussion on that.
When is the, when do we have to ask for the grant? When's the date on that?
It varies, but a lot of times it's April, May, there, that time of frame. It comes out in like August or October, September, somewhere there. But the grant actually, but again, it varies from year, changes every year. So is it up yet this year?
Yes, sir. The, 24, 25.
I couldn't find the 26. I couldn't
I
find
don't
it.
When was
see
that
it.
one done?
The 24, 25, the guidance is issued on July 30th of 2024. The application opens on August 1st of 2024. The application deadline was September 13th of 2024. So I imagine it would follow that same timeline.
So,
We still need to get on the ball and come up with whatever it is.
So we saying that we're gonna wait till after we find somebody good to get that land to decide something?
no, I think we're still moving forward in what plan we want to do, but to see if that land is usable.
The land could be usable, but it is not financially feasible to even consider that as of right now. I mean, they could come back and tell you, yes, that land, I mean, I can tell you, with enough work, that land can be usable. I can promise you that. However, I mean, when you just do the numbers, like I said in that work session, 52 and 15, if you can't do your project in 52 million and 15 million for debt services, it's fictional, in my mind. And I would love for somebody to prove me wrong with that, because it would ease my mind a lot. But I just think that we have talked about it, we moved it to the next month, we moved it to the next month. And at some point in time, the first step that we have to do, we have to do that sometime. And it's not like you're saying, this is the end all, this is what you're doing, but it does And I will be honest, it puts it to another court, because right now, if any questions are asked, once it's on the county commissioner side, you know, what's going on with the school system, what's our plan? Well, they never presented us with a plan, so it's on them. And I'm not saying push the blame, but you have to do the first step, to do the second step and everything that you do. And I think after 2 years of watching I'm not talking negatively on the board, I understand why things have been moved, but we do have a deadline that's coming, and to think that if that thing's due in August, that in 3 months from now, we're all suddenly gonna write a grant and have it ready by August, that's not, you have to give yourself room, because I mean, the back and forth between us and the commissioners will be forever long, you know, and so.
Steve, can I ask you a question? And no is a completely appropriate answer, but would you be willing to amend this to leave off the words at Peachtree? Just to
If you
move
can
us
give me
forward?
another piece of process.
No, and just, we're gonna move forward, because in my mind, this is just a resolution saying, hey, we're willing to move this direction, and this is the first step. This isn't something we could take this to the commissioners, and it would give them an idea of what the direction we as a board want to move,
Yes.
but it's, the devil's in the details, and one of those details is where we be.
If I can remove one word and it goes to them, I will scratch it out of them,
Okay,
100%.
okay.
I think the location's gonna, I mean, you know me, that's the same, that's the plan I've been talking since I've been on board. But I don't think they're gonna allow it to be on that piece of
But I
property.
think if you do this, even if that's on there, you will finally get the conversation to be had to, okay, you don't want it there. Okay, provide me another paid for piece of property that already has infrastructure. When you can do that, I'll listen to you. Because, like, when you read in here, 65 million bucks is the cost of that. That's without buying any land. That's your money. So once you go away from what you already have, you're no longer in the ballgame. But yes, I know that there was a conversation that was brought up, and I would be willing to do that. But it has to be something you don't pay for, that they give it with no income.
So what if we send over every plan, that each one of the 3 or 4 plans that we've all came up with, we send them all, see which one they're most likely to support?
They have all those.
Well, then we need to ask them which one they're most
I
likely.
mean, they have those.
I mean, because I use the analogy for meeting, over at Tri-County, say, if I come to one of you, want to open a storefront business, I come to you for finance. Are you gonna be involved in the planning stage or not? Because you're not just gonna hand me a blank check, so if they have to fund the money, then why can they not tell us, hey, we lean more towards this? Because we can spend a year on one certain plan, but if they reject it, it's a dead in the water.
But that's a good point, Jason, but like, what Steve's proposing is we sort of do that one plan at a time. Because if we send them this and they say absolutely no way will we support that, then it's dead. And then we gotta come back and say,
yeah, we can support these two, then we explore those two.
I think we've kind of done that, sending them all 3, and the response that I could usually get is send me a plan. Like one that, like Mr. Janine said, one that the 7 of us, we went 4 to 3, 5 to 2, 6 to 1, whatever. Somehow we've gotten more than 4 to agree to one plan. And until we do that, I think that's their chess piece is you're, at least 4 of you have to commit to something before we will look at it. And that's the step that if we don't take, you'll be sitting here whenever from now having the same discussion. But I do, I wish it was
I
that.
understand we gotta make the step, we should have at least a year. I agree with you on that, but my thought is, let's top it up, make it look nice, neat, pretty, professional, for them, whatever they need, all plans, give it to them, which are you most likely to support? Because if they can't even tell us that, then we're just sort of spinning our wheels.
And they received that at that joint meeting, right? They received all 3 of those plans.
My problem with that is, I feel like you're giving too much for that, right? We're elected into these positions. We know 100% of the education, all these things that we talk about. We don't. So you're gonna send them a bunch of, hey, pick A, B, C, D. They don't know anything about the devils in the details. So like, they send us one back, and what if half of us can't do that?
If you remember in September,
Well, let's
when
just do not have those to agree with 50 million.
we had that joint session meeting, when we brought
Honestly, more than half of us out of this.
Dan Griggs stood up, which I know she's not on there anymore, but she stood up and said, the plan we're looking for is one with details, prices, and the rate. And I know she's not on there, but she was on the board at the time. And so that's when I changed gears and changed my plan to where I can give you those numbers. And, I mean, it would be the same as an investment guy myself. If you send me a plan with no numbers and no details, I'm gonna waste my time talking to you because there's too many unknowns. And that's where whatever plan we submit needs to have everything done. And for the most part, I don't know that the three plans that we gave differ a whole grand scale. It's the same concept. And this is not me saying nothing about me, but this is the only one I can prove it. I can show you. I can take you there. I can show you. I have maps, I have drawings, I have everything on the man on it. And like I said, you get a plan to that point, and then you punt it over to them, and it's their play. If they say, no, we don't want it, at least you have alleviated the thing of them saying, well, they've not submitted a plan to us to even look at. We're waiting on them. And that is our 1/3 of the job.
So I say that in the next meeting, we have a work session before that meeting.
Agreed.
And in that meeting,
Vote.
we vote. We'll
So-
hold every one of the ones that we have up, and whichever one wins, that's the one we submit to.
Well, I'll agree to that. I have no problem having a facilities work session next month before the regular scheduled meeting, then we'll vote in the meeting. I have no problem with that.
I was gonna say too, I don't have a problem with submitting something to them. I think that's important, but I think it's something that we need to agree on. It's
Yes.
not- I think there's too many, questions and disagreement on that. I mean, to present that to commissioners. I mean, it needs to be a plan that we can all live with and that we're all gonna embrace.
The only thing that I would add, and I agree, at our last work session, I spent 45 minutes laying it out, and I got 0 questions. And I got 0 feedback, and I got 0 anything from that. And so this work session, and I agreed to have it, to be able to put something to a vote, but when we have that work session next month, whatever your plan is, whatever your thought is, have it, like done, and we discuss it to where whatever questions and disagreements we do have, if it takes us 15 hours, when we leave, we figure it out, and I'm just saying we need to do it for it, but I do agree. I just don't want it to be like the last one. It was just kind of talking.
We will vote in the next meeting, we will vote, and whatever that is that we come to a conclusion, that's what we're going to send out.
For the record, on that resolution, on this thing, like, again, when we send that, when we vote on that, we are not voting for the entire county of Cherokee and what we're gonna do. It's just sending it to the next level, because the community involvement and all that stuff is after that first step.
And I'll say this too, not to throw a monkey wrench in what's just been said about having a work session or a decision next meeting. Even though I submitted an idea, that's one of the ones that's included, I'll just say, and I'm not trying to cause problems or anything, I would still like to do what was just been discussed, even if what I get ready to say happens. When you said that you would take out the location, I can vote to support this. And that's a very general statement, I know, but I do see this as a first step. You're basically saying this in very big picture, and I think you need to understand that too, like, we can't, like DPI is not, don't take this the wrong way, DPI is not going to go off your numbers. So when we say this is the way we're going, then we're gonna at some point be charging Dr. Woody for him and his staff to move forward on an actual detailed plan, hiring a firm, spending lots of money. But you're gonna do that no matter what, to actually move forward on
what it's gonna be. We went through that with schools innovation, we went through that with the consolidated high school plan. So that's how the actual steps will be, but I do know that this is a first step, and big picture, I say this a lot, our current long-range plan that we have consolidates us to 3 K8, big picture. This does that. What you're proposing is in line with our current long-range plan. And even though it's not the idea I proposed, I can support this because it moves us in that direction. So if you're fine with waiting, that's fine. But if you make a motion on this, I will second it and put it to a vote. So that's your call, if we're in order to vote on it.
I don't think we can make a motion on the resolution tonight, that was the thing. So,
Okay.
But I will say I agree with what Jeff just said. And the only reason I say that caveat is that if it only costs $5 million to get into that property across from high school, I know. But if it did, there's a K-12 right there in the making. And everybody in Murphy would support that.
Right, because I mean, we're getting too far down into the
But
weeds, but
understand, that process, you will be passed. I mean, like, if you hired a dude today to start that assessment on that property, to fulfill that, to give you a number, you've already missed your deadline.
and that's fine.
So, I'm just saying.
but I think it's a step in the direction of what the board is wanting to go in the future with our schools. And so, I think it's where we need to start.
And if I can also, Madam Chair, say too, when I say that I can support this, like I said, the devil's are in the details, and we'll get to that point if we do with this. I mean, obviously, there's a lot, like you mentioned, like, if you're talking about closing schools, it's not just this easy. But I also want to say, like, having been through school closures, it's a big deal, and we got to look at, I think I saw something, U.S. News published their school rankings, and I don't like to compare our schools because I don't want anybody to feel like their school's inferior or anything like that. But because it's in that, I'm just going to point out that Peachtree apparently is doing things very well. And that's been recognized by a very reputable national publication. So we have to be mindful of those things. It's like, it's not just about buildings. And so you have to realize that they're doing something right over there. When I say that, I'm not saying our other schools are not. I'm just saying they're doing something right. And so it's not just as easy as like, oh, we're going to close that school because we need to move them out. I mean, I know everybody sitting here realizes that, but if we're going to do that, we've got to realize what we have and make sure we replicate it and hopefully even improve it. And I'll also say that, I said this even when I voted for the high school consolidation, that's not the full piece. This is another piece. But we also need to be mindful that the need that the high school consolidation was going to address still exists. And it'll still exist even if we do this and build this, which is Murphy High School needs a new facility. And Andrews High School and Howesty Dam High School deserve more opportunities. Murphy deserves a new facility and more opportunities. And even our Murphy students don't get what other counties get because Murphy has to share their resources with the rest of the county. So we also need to be mindful of that as we move forward. And we're probably going to get that pushed back to us from the commissioners, that need still exists, and they're going to be right when they do push that back. So we need to be mindful that need still exists, and we have to also be thinking about, in our long-range plan or some way, how are we going to address that need? If we're going to keep the same high schools open, we need to realize that we're shortchanging our kids and figure out a way to not shortchange them. That's the only reason I voted for the high school consolidation, because I knew that the kids the students at each of our traditional high schools are being shortchanged. They are. And when we read that, our mission statement, we're not there. I know a mission statement is what you're aiming for. We're not there. And that's as nice as I can put it. So I do think that if we move this direction, That's not the whole thing. We've got more to do, and our students deserve it.
I think if you move that direction also, you're talking about elementary children. I live in Hanging area. The bus is at the bottom of High Hill at 6 o'clock.
No, ma'am, it's just, well, I guess Hanging Dog would be correct.
Unaka, Beaver Dam,
And they go to Murphy Elementary now.
yes.
Yes.
And some of those bus drivers are at the bus garage at 4 or 4:30 in the morning.
I understand that.
So there's a lot to be considered.
Yeah.
But irregardless, I mean, you're talking about,
You have a kindergarten kid and you have to put them on the bus at 5 o'clock in the morning and they don't get home until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That's
well,
not
I
good.
don't think you're gonna get away from that everywhere. I mean, the reality of it is Murphy Elementary School is also,
But it was a concern about doing, when they were talking consolidation, that was a major concern about Andrew's kids, high school kids coming to Peachtree.
But that piece of property is like 4 miles from Murphy Elementary.
it's not crazy
It's
for
4 miles.
And it's also not what
That
we.
piece of property is, but how far is it from Woodland Spring? Or Unaka?
It's just
4 miles more than where they would come from.
wherever they're coming.
That's my point. And I was not for consolidation because 141, that Andrews kids who have been driving on, has a ditch on both sides.
So have you been over on Beaver Dam and down to
I know,
Unaka?
man, I know, I'm just saying, that was 14 miles for Andrews, 17 miles from Hiawassee schools, not from their kids. So, I get what you're saying, but, and that's why I think that the Murphy piece of property right across from the high school, if it costs $5 or $10 million to get into that, and we can take if it takes $10 million out of 52 million, and we can build a K-8 over there for the Murphy kids, Peachtree kids, Martin Creek. Huh?
For 42, that's what I'm saying, the numbers are what they are. You can't.
I mean, they built the early college, which is a building, for $23 million.
For 150 students.
But it's got 26-foot ceilings in the cafeteria that could have been classrooms upstairs. I think we have to explore, they're not gonna allow that piece of property.
It should not be to them solely. Well, we can get it.
Well, coming into next month, we're gonna know one way or another how we're moving forward, regardless.
I think we can know that without even knowing a place. I think that the place is secondary, but let's move in that direction.
Okay. Okay, moving right along. Next item on the agenda. So, new business, item A. Surplus property bid on the 31 and 43 Stony Hill Lane property. We had received the offer there made, and I make a motion that we reject that offer. Okay, seconded by Ms. Getz. All right. I just think, I don't know that that is going to be enough to cover the costs we are going to have to pay out, and that would even benefit us. So that's my discussion on it. Ms. Gaddis, your discussion? Great, okay. Fellow board members, discussion on this property.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not even gonna cover taxes, they would have to pay on it.
I have a family member that's interested in that, so I'm staying from voting.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, any other discussion on this?
What is the current condition of the property in terms of, has it been cleaned up, have the people been moved off of it? I just have concerns about liability issues the longer you want to do it, if it's still a bad place.
I'm not gonna turn it loose for,
You know, if it's trespass.
right.
Yes. But we give the sheriff's office authority to do that, did we not?
Yes, and they vacated the property, so if they're on there now, they can be arrested.
Okay.
Dr. Woody?
I have, I've gone over there, I continually checking on it, there's nobody on it anymore. The stuff is still there, as Mr. Murphy said, there's no trespassing signs on it. So from that standpoint, there's no one still there.
I agree with the cost, I've just got concerns about if
the longer we hold on to that, the more likely we are to, yes, and end up paying out a lawsuit. So that's my only concern, so.
May I add something?
Yes.
I've had several people reach out to me interested in meeting with me on this property, and I think they're waiting for this.
Okay.
I don't think we'll be holding on to this property indefinitely. I just don't. So, okay, I'm gonna ask for a roll call vote on this, Mr. Chapman.
Mrs. Gaddis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
That's to the problem.
to reject the offer, you're voting to reject her. Mr. Coleman,
I agree.
Mr. Ellis, you recuse?
Yes.
Mr. Matthews?
Aye.
Mr. Tatham?
Aye.
Mrs. Rayburn?
Aye. Okay, next item under new business is the amendment to policy 2300, which concerns board meetings. Currently, let's see, obviously we meet the third Thursday of the month, but this amendment to the policy would move that we would meet on the first Thursday of the month for board meetings. Do you want to speak more to this, Mr.?
Well, I can. Again, it would just make it easier in working and getting our information in to the county commission. This would allow us then to, I think, Maria said that the things need to be in on the Tuesday of the second week before the commission meeting on the third. So this would just make it easier for us in working with the commission. And I would recommend, there's only one word in the policy that's changing from third to first. That's the only change. And I would recommend that you waive second reading so it will become effective immediately.
Okay. Go.
I was gonna say, I think, isn't this part of you too? I think the church decided to do just a little meeting.
They are, and they're going to do a community meeting on that throughout the year.
So they were meeting
First and
twice,
third.
first and third, and now they're just meeting the third.
Third. Business.
Right.
So if we have a meeting Thursday, we have an emergency need for money, then we have to do it extra money.
Wait till the next month, yeah.
Well, then I make a motion that we make the amendment, and make this happen as soon as possible.
Wait for the first,
Wait the second
reading
reading, yes.
protocol and approve the amendment.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, that's gonna be my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, second. Mr. Tatham. I don't have any further discussion on that. I just think it's gonna help matters with the commission board. Mr. Tatham, discussion?
No, Madam Chair.
Board members, discussion? This will make our next meeting then February the 6th, so we're going to have a very quick turnaround. So we're going to, so I'll make that announcement in a minute and with some other things. All right, let's vote on this. All in favor of approving this amendment, making this change, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by the same sign? Okay, great. That leads us to the next item on the agenda, which is the announcement of our next board meeting. So that will now be the first Thursday of February, which will be February the 6th at 5:30. Now,
That's still 3 weeks.
oh, is it 3 weeks? Okay, all right, okay, good. So 3 weeks, we'll meet again. I would also say that we will do a facilities workshop at 4 o'clock on February the 6th. So 2 things, facilities workshop, 4 o'clock, February the 6th, followed by a regular board meeting at 5:30. That's all I've got for that. So now I'm going to start with final comments. Mr. Mr. Coleman.
I think you were gonna mention it as well. I think a bunch of us have received, phone calls or concerns, about policy 7503, and I know at least a few of us have promised to have an open discussion about it. And I don't have the policy in front of me. You have, are you able to get that stuff? It's about,
The remote work.
they're like working remotely when we have, I believe in there, I'm not really anybody means, but it talks about inclement weather for health reasons, when we have school closures allowing, I don't know how to word it, I guess staff to work from home without having to use sick days, work days, all that stuff. I know there's a policy for it. I believe in there, the discretion to make the decision, I believe, is superintendent or school board. And so just wondering when those things occur, as they've occurred this week, of course. I think there should be, obviously, my personal, again, I haven't been able to take the time to research all of it, but there's always two sides to the story. However, in this one, I think that if we make the determination that the school is unsafe for kids to attend, I think that it should also pertain to the staff. I also know there's a difference between salary employees and hourly employees, as far as the hourly is not contracted through us. So I think that's a little different variation of that. But I think whatever the policy says, if it's deemed unsafe for whatever reason, then I think that should be across the board, as long as there is a universal form of accountability for what you do out. Like if it's I'm no tech do, but if it's like a Google spreadsheet or something that you go on where you can document what you did on that day, because I do trust everything, but I don't actually trust everybody. But there's a lot of good people, but it takes one not to do their job, to do this stuff for others. So I think if there's good accountability to it, I think that it should be some form of policy that's kind of across the board. When this happens, you do this. Because I know there were some differences in different schools this week that kind of got convoluted a little bit. So I just promised that we would discuss this, and I know some of the other ones did as well. So that's my take on it.
Final comments, Mr. Baker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess I'll just piggyback off what Steve just said. I also received many calls and texts about this policy as well. And I thought we had a remote work policy, but I wasn't sure the details. But when I went back and reviewed it, I'll be honest, I was kind of shocked how cut and dried and boilerplate it already is. So it kind of made me feel, as a board member getting these questions, that not only are we not changing policy to allow something, we already have the policy to allow that, and we're choosing not to implement it. So I felt like I was letting our teachers down. Knowing that, I would say that as the policy is written, I would ask Dr. Woody to, moving forward, if we have 2-hour delays, school closures, or inclement weather, that we utilize the policy we already have, which allows our teachers to work remotely. I work remotely. I am a big believer in it. It works. And I understand the accountability piece. Some people, in general, I'm not talking about our teachers, some people use that. Some people just can't handle it. Some people try to work remotely and they can't stand it. And so they choose to either not work or come in. But in the cases where it would be abused, this is my theory, is the teachers, and I'm not picking on any of our teachers, the teachers that would abuse that are the ones that we already have as bad teachers in the classroom. Our teachers give their heart and soul to our kids every day. They're underpaid, they're underappreciated, and this is a morale thing, in my opinion. I feel very strongly about it. And saying that, I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus at this table. I'm just saying how I feel, my convictions. Our teachers, we can never do enough for them, but we can try to do more. And I think this is one. I myself got stuck, and now it was a boneheaded move on my part, but I got stranded in the ice the other day on the 2-hour delay taking my son to school, and he was late for that. I just don't want any of our kids or our teachers to get hurt trying to come to work. I do appreciate that we've been open, so hourly can continue to come to work and still get paid. That is important to me. So I hope that we can, if we do this, that we can do some type of hybrid so that everybody gets taken care of. But I also know the same problem exists for beginning teachers
who don't have a lot of leave build up. If you're a beginning teacher, you don't have leave build up. So if we have a week of optional teacher work days and you're stranded, guess what? Your paycheck's gonna be a lot less. And that's, that hurts. And so I hope that we can, be flexible and encourage our administrators to be flexible with our employees too. And I'll just leave that at that. But I would say that I would like to, like I said, encourage Dr. Woody to consider that moving forward. We still got a little bit of winter left. And if it's still an issue, the next time we meet, I say that the board needs to discuss it and make a decision. That's all I got to say on that.
Mr. Ellis, final comments?
Just on same thing. I had a ton of phone calls about a lot of teachers and parents frustrated. I agree. I think that if we have the policy 7503, I think that it should be utilized in the way that it's written. I talked to the IT department. They said they could monitor when you log in and you log off your computer as a teacher at home as well. So there's not really any reason for teachers to be put at risk to have to drive to work and work with our kids. And this is my personal belief, but if our buses cannot drive out that day, to me, if it's too dangerous for our buses, it's too dangerous for their kids to come to school. And I think that this week was a perfect example. Somebody sent me a video of Murphy Elementary yesterday, some parents pushing a car through the drop-off line because it was stuck in the ice. My road was completely iced over, and my kids were driving, and they both drive small front-wheel drive vehicles that if you hit the ice, whichever direction you're going, that's where you're going to end up. So I don't know who makes that call as far as if we go to school, 2-hour delay, but I really wish that I live in Andrews, you live in Andrews, you live in Peachtree, everybody lives in different locations. I think there should be some input from us, because I would not have went to school yesterday. Andrews Elementary, the hill was iced over. You had to put barricades up. And I just think that was, I think another day off and a 2-hour delay today may have ruined it, but my backyard has still got 7 inches of snow. And all the people above me, and there's 3 kids that live up that road is still 7 inches under snow. So I think that the whole county has to be taking accountability when we make that decision. So I would hope that 7503 is utilized. Snow's supposed to come in on Sunday and on Tuesday, so I hope that we see that policy next week.
Ms. Gaddis?
No, I mean, I actually didn't get anything else about that, but I will piggyback on that. I believe that speaks to certified staff. If we're going to do it, I think we need to do it for everybody. I mean, how do we say just because you're certified, you're more important than certified? I mean, to me, that's just not right. I mean, we can budget and pay these people 40 hours. I would much rather pay them as they worth of work than for them to have to risk coming out. And they don't have to stop. That's just me personally.
So I've actually been in communication with the state about that very thing, and what the state has communicated to us is that we have no local authority to pay if hours are not worked as committed. So in that scenario that you talked about, if we wanted to give an employee a day wage because we closed and we did not want to shorten their paycheck, if they were a state paid employee, we would have to put that daily wage for every individual in a local dollar. They will not allow the authorization of state dollars to be paid unless their duties were performed for the day. So that's a little bit of the roadblock that we ran into. In the same situation, from a working from home situation, a custodian cannot do that. a bus driver that can do that.
I understand the
Yeah.
difficulty of them, but at the same time, when you talked about the morale thing, there's morale killing, you tell them one group of people, you don't get to do it, another group can get to it.
Can I say one thing? I know I'm out of turn, but based on what's just said, just prompted a question. Could our hourly people, and I know this is for another time, and we're not, but anyway, could our hourly people that say our teachers are working from home, obviously a custodian can't clean the school remotely, but would the state allow us to pay them and allow them to do online professional development opportunities? Maybe as simple as like get CPR certified, because that's not their job, and I don't know if they're already have to be CPR certified, but I would feel better knowing my kids go to school as the custodian of CPR.
I think
Just
that
an example.
as your example, I don't see why in a situation, if there was an online professional development, I don't know of any requirement that they would have to do that on campus, because many professional developments are in Greensboro and Raleigh anyway, what would be any different? But a lot of times in those situations, unless we had several queued up for that to be completed, in those instantaneous decisions, they may not be available. That would be something administration could look in, having available for them typically. And I'll get state clarification on that being allowed.
Because to me, our non-certified staff are just as critical to the success of Cherokee County.
Oh, agreed.
as certified staff.
Yes.
So I think they should be treated equally.
Well, one thing that we have encouraged the principals to please consider, especially for our hourly staff, is please create opportunities for them to make up those hours so their patients aren't short. Yes, they do earn comp time for if they're working over and above, some comp time is available for situations like what we're discussing. But the directive, to my knowledge, has always been, please work with your staff members to provide opportunities for them to make up their time so they are not short.
Because you just have to meet the 40 that week period. It don't matter if it's, I'm not saying to get up at
For
4.
our hourly folks, yes. Well, they are truly hourly now with this state mandated conversion. So whatever hours they work that week, they are paid for those hours.
Mr. Chapman, final comments?
Well, thank you, Mr. Matthews.
I was going to get him to ask.
Oh, well, I just need clarification on the facilities workshop. Are the plans in the sample plan the same plans that you want brought for consideration at the facilities workshop?
You don't want us to surprise
I don't know.
you?
Yeah, I think because those, in my opinion, because those are what we discussed the most now.
I think that, I don't know if Mr. Coleman's plans changed or if it's still the same plan.
Pretty much. It's-
Okay, so what I'll build the agenda based on those plans.
Okay.
Okay. That's all I.
If not, I'll be happy to go over it again.
No, thank you. You got it.
Yeah, I would just like to say, this may not be popular, so, but, I didn't receive any calls. I think a lot of board members receive many more calls than I do, which is fine. But, I think when I started working in Cherokee County in 1998, I think our principals have always been in the position to work with staffs, and if there's a problem, they'll work with them. And I think with this, this working remotely, I think if it's a really bad storm or something, I get it. I mean, I think we can still do annual leave days, right? I mean, if it's really bad. But with that, I think you have to be really careful. As a former principal,
Yes.
you have to be really careful in that. And one thing in this policy I thought was interesting, I pulled it up on my phone. It says teleworkers, which would be those people working from home, must not deviate from the work schedule that would be expected of them at their regularly assigned place of work, including working hours, lunch breaks, etc., unless specifically authorized to do so by their supervisor. So what that means, what that looks like, as a teacher would be at the desk or whatever at the kitchen table at 8 o'clock, and they would work until whatever time they take lunch. And unfortunately, you probably would have about 20 minutes for lunch, which is, no, not on a work day. You would actually have more because they actually take an hour on a work day, which is very deserving. And then go back and continue your day and work till 3 o'clock. I think you have to be really careful. I would definitely encourage principals to continue to work with staffs, and I did that when I was principal. If the teacher said, Mr. Matthews, I cannot, get off my heel, then I would work with that teacher. And sometimes that meant, the teacher might say, if it's okay, can I make that, this day later in the summer or whatever? And I'd say, absolutely, because sometimes the teacher would say, I actually have some other things I need to take care of today. So if I can just make that day up, I would say, absolutely, that's not a problem. So I think we have to be really careful, is what I would throw out there. I see a lot of the principals nodding their heads. It's just, you definitely want to err on the side of caution, but I think as principals have been continuing to work with their staffs. And again, I think Mr. Tatum, somebody mentioned, especially beginning teachers. I know when my wife and I first started, we were both working in Haywood County schools, and they called it wasn't an optional teacher work day. I think it was a required work day, and there was ice on the road or whatever. And so my wife and I got about, and we needed the money, right? And so we got about a mile from our house, and we were sliding all over the road. And I was in one car, my wife was in another car going to 2 different schools. And I looked at my wife and I went, let's go home. And I thought, it's not going to help them if we're dead. They're going to have to hire 2 new teachers. So you have to be careful, but I have concerns about that. Just doing just saying, okay, you have that option. That's my thoughts.
Thank you. Dr. Woody, final comments? All right, that just leaves me. Well, I did not get called over this, but I'm going to start with positive. So thank you, transportation, thank you, central office, thank you, SROs, thank you those folks who got out, ride the roads, who are point people in the community, whether it's working through the DOT to find out what's going on, actually getting out a bus garage and driving to see where our buses can make it, where they can't make it, to make that determination. Having been in that spot previously, I understand. It's never an easy decision to make, and you will never make anybody happy, but thank you for that hard work. It does not go unnoticed on me. I understand your pain. I understand where you're coming from. This policy in particular, with the teleworking, I'm not going to be popular. If it were up to me, we probably wouldn't have it, quite frankly. That's just my opinion. I think our administrators in this county do an excellent job working with the staff in their building to meet the needs of their staff, whether they can come in or not. They make that determination, they make that plan with their administrator, and I think our administrators do a fine job with that. Maybe part of the issue I take with it is that it's specific to teachers, that teachers can telework, and I think about all the other folks who do not fall in that category, central office included. Okay, and I get it, I understand. I also feel like this probably was born out of the pandemic, and I could be very wrong, but I think this maybe came about because of that. We had to do some things to figure out how we were going to educate our children, how we were going to work, how we were going to get our people paid. So, I'm not telling you to risk your life and limb to come to work if it is not safe for you. What I am telling you is work with your administrator. I feel certain they're going to work with you. I do appreciate every single person who has a hand in that. I know no matter what decision you make, you're going to be right there with the calls. I appreciate you anyway. With that being said, do I have a motion and a second to adjourn this meeting?
We need to go to closed session.
No, we're not going to.
We're not. Okay. Oh, that's all. Sorry.
I say one, I know I'm out of turn with, Madam Chair, I apologize. I think we just had a gentleman leave entry because he wanted to say something.
I asked him before, he said no.
Okay, I was just gonna say, maybe, just as a suggestion, in the future, maybe we do like the, commissioners do at their meeting. If there's nobody signed up for public comment, we ask if anybody that even if you haven't signed up, if you're here and you're about to speak. So I got the impression that that's what just happened, so.
Okay, well, we're past that. So motion and second. Motion by Mr. Coleman, second by Mr. Tatum. All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, by the same sign. Meeting adjourned.
Run down.